What is the number one way that artificial intelligence is improving business efficiency today?
AI, when you think about it, it's all about efficiency and productivity. So in my world, I started to leverage it just on using a AI assistant to do market research, market intelligence, productivity, speed to market. These are tools now, and that's one thing I think we have to be aware, Rick, is that these things are tools like anything else. It's how you use that tool is it's gonna be effective. If you look at any trend in the market, you see this hyper growth of technology, even networking, Rick. Networking enabled this because you need this, right? And it's relevant. It's relevant to security. I think the amount of revenue last year was 11 billion. It goes to 61 billion by 2030, 143 billion by 2033, and the growth of just base networking is around 9%. Of AI enabled network is about 40% as a CAGR over the next 5 years.
Hello, everyone. This is Rick with the Cyber Pro podcast. We're super excited. Industry leaders are sharing their insights, and they're with us as guests. So, Ed, first question might be the toughest question of the day, but who are you and why are you awesome?
Oh, great. So much. So my name is Ed Morales. So I lead, the vice president of high growth business strategic enablement for North America at TD Synnex, covering the high growth solutions. That includes data and AI, cybersecurity, and cloud. I try to be humble, but awesomeness seems to follow me around. I'm just joking. No, but I think a lot of it's because my goal is to be able to just empower folks. I come into everything with a passion, whether it's my music or my work at TD Synnex, and just I everything. Just the goal is to lift everybody up, man. That's kind of the approach.
I love it. That might be one of the better answers I've had, so I appreciate that.
Awesome.
So, talk to me a little bit about TD Synnex. I know that it plays this super pivotal role in kind of a tech ecosystem, right? As a distributor, as whatever else you name yourselves. But how are you helping partners navigate kind of the overwhelming landscape of cloud, cyber, artificial intelligence? I mean, all three of those are so uniquely different at times.
Like, another great question. I think one of the unique things that distribution plays is in the ecosystem. When we see is where we sit in the center, right? We are in between the partners and the vendors. And our goal is to be able to just understand the value proposition of the vendors that we represent, kind of sort of curate and dissect that and present it to the partner community in a way that they can consume. And we serve the purposes from the partner's perspective. Like you said, they can get inundated with content and information, and they rely on us to be able to help kind of make sense of all that noise. The vendors, on the other hand, are also trying to propagate their content across the channel, but they don't have the reach that we do. So we can then, leverage a lot of our expertise, our knowledge. We've been doing this for decades and decades. We know how to do this effectively, and that's how we've done it for years, and we continue to use the same methodology, enhanced with tools and skills and what have you as the industry progresses. But that's how we fit in the ecosystem.
So let's dig in a little bit. What are some trends that you guys over at TD Synnex are seeing in cybersecurity specifically?
Well, I think the one common one that we're starting to see with the whole Gen AI, you're seeing the bad actors leveraging this, and so what we're seeing, and the really cool thing about it, the cybersecurity vendors have probably been one of the technology segments that for years have employed machine learning. So for them, this is not too far fetched, but they've been enhancing their capabilities and their technologies with AI and ML to essentially fight those bad actors, right? The other thing is that now the advancements of LLMs, the need to be able to secure those, right? To make sure that there's no these prompt injections taking place by bad actors and what have you. So there's that trend. The need of enhanced regulatory compliance as AI starts to get deployed, securing the supply chain. That you got bad actors, exploiting different aspects of that and just becoming very much aware of that. And just the thing about identity and access management, I think that's sort of usually a vulnerable, as historically been the most vulnerable asset or within the company is usually the people, and not keeping them informed with tools and skills is usually one of the things that we've got to maintain that. And we try to help that through the training that we offer both to our partners and even downstream to their end customers.
So, how would you tell a partner or a customer, hey, here's the value the why, the how to sell artificial intelligence?
Well, I think this is the interesting thing, and that's a great question, Rick, that we saw early on. Um, and one thing we've noticed and this is a really interesting thing that's taking place in technology. It sounds like I think we've both been around for a number of years. But when you look at the stack, the whole OSI stack, right, from the infrastructure to the data to the application, this is one of the few times that you need to install the full stack in an AI deployment. You cannot run AI applications on legacy hardware because it does come back not just from the what, but the why. So you see this whole influx of AI enabled storage, AI enabled servers, AI enabled networking, which you need, right, to handle the velocity, the transactional velocity of those calculations for data compliance, data governance, and cyber resiliency. So when we're talking about to partners, is there's been an intimidation because we start to see agentic AI and Gen AI. A lot of the partners that we deal with have never really played in that area we have a lot of partners that really migrated from analytics into the AI space, but we have a lot of partners that sell cybersecurity that are experts in infrastructure. And we were telling them, look, it's you need to establish a practice within the area that you already have expertise and knowledge, because it comes about it is a why, not about the what. And inclusive of cybersecurity, you can create you're going to need in every deployment of AI to have that secure. And we just talked about incident areas of focus, including security for AI, which is a whole different practice. And so, Rick, what we've done is we've aligned our go-to-market, leveraging something we call the destinationalized. That's our program called Destination, and we're going to talk about that shortly. Destinationalized Solution Grid. And what we've done is we've mapped technologies based on a criteria of complexity of implement of solution of the vertical, right? So we have 3 tiers. We have an aware, ready, and expert. The aware part is opportunistic, so they're the first level. Second level is ready. They've made some level of investment, but not fully monetized. Then we have the experts. These are the guys that have established early on practices. Typically came out of the analytic group because it was a very easy transition. They're the ones selling a lot of those NVIDIA super pods, but they're a very small subset. We also map based on the transactional. So is it an easy out of the box sell? So Copilot on an AI PC would be something on the left. As we go over to the right, a little bit more of a solution sell and more transformative. And the reason we did this, we started mapping technologies across every vendor that we align in this grid, and we start mapping out to be able to try to help partners identify areas that, based on their current expertise, what can they actually adopt and sell, and then have that conversation with their end customer, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we can go that a little bit further, but again, I think that's our model of approach, is trying to meet them where they're at and then guide them on that journey on where they can start to establish a much robust practice on the outcome-based solutions, and what have you. But I think there's a need in the industry for expertise in cybersecurity around AI. So leverage what you already have and the investments you already have.
No, I love that. And one of the things I talk about a lot around artificial intelligence build out or readiness is you need to understand your systems. That's core cyber
Yes.
tech hygiene. You need to understand the intelligence that you're hoping those systems can give you that they're not today. And then there's a little bit of a chasm, right? There's a little bit of a gap. You have to be able to jump over, and the gap is data. Is it structured? Is it unstructured? Where does it sit, right? That gap is the data, because a lot of people end up jumping that gap straight to those large language models, to the Gen AIs, and ultimately they need automations and efficiencies that are available with machine learning models. And so when I see stuff like that, it really starts to put my mind around, the intersection of artificial intelligence and just core cyber holistic landscape. And so talking about that, what do you think partners should be thinking about when they're having these conversations, when their customers are leaning in with artificial intelligence? How do you layer artificial intelligence into the security stack?
Well, I think this is interesting. I think they're all these customers all know they need to deploy and do something within that environment. They're not really clear. They're not really sure on the what. right? And this is where we can then come in and be the advisor. So you do talk about data hygiene, data structure. That is important. And this is a new skill set that our partners, especially if you're in cybersecurity, may need to actually gain and be able to develop. Fortunately, partnering with a company like CTD Synnex, it allows us to be able to provide that service as a third party service to augment their capabilities and actually be able to help support um, the assessment, the analysis of the environment for the end customer, but then map either skills that we have complementing the partner or doing skill transfer and helping the partner deliver that. So, if I may, Rick, we have this one offering that we just came out with our services organization called Launchpad. And what we're doing is there's multiple variations of that, but we walk with the partner into an end customer environment and basically start to assess it's quite asking questions of the end customer to understand their environment so we can then pivot and make sure we can start to assess and we plot out what are the opportunities that different things that we could do with them and allow the end customer to then decide where they want to go, at which point in time then we work with the partner either where they can deliver it themselves or we can help them deliver it with augmented services from our side. But it does go back to sometimes you have to tell the customer where to go. And I think that's a lot of it is where they're asking is I think most of them what I'm seeing are not really sure what to do yet with AI.
And I know you just mentioned talking about Launchpad, but I also know you guys are doing a really cool initiative called Destination AI. How is that accelerating the success for all sorts of startups, partners that are across the different stages of artificial intelligence and maturity?
Well, and that's a great question. And as I mentioned earlier, we had created this grid. Remember, I mentioned the technology. So what we've done is that it allows us to match because we've identified destination is basically our enablement framework by which we're able to map technologies based on the partner's skills. So we meet them where they're at based on their expertise and areas of focus, whether it be infrastructure, security, cloud, or analytics. And what we're doing is we're using the vendors that we have partnerships with in alignment with their go-to-market and enablement to basically talk about the partner, tell the partner about how they need to sell this technology. Because again, it's not necessarily the what, it's the how, and also reframing their own value to market. So Rick, we have an enablement program within Destination I call the AI Practice Accelerator. And what we do is we take partners in a workshop, and most of it's about understanding business. We walk through how they market themselves, how they position themselves, how they actually sell their firm, and then we talk about the technology. Because once we teach them how to sell in AI, then whatever they plug in, it's rinse and repeat. So a lot of this has been kind of it's been interesting because I've had partners who I've known for 20 years come up to me. It's like that we're having to reevaluate our business and how we sell in this space to customers where they've been selling for decades. And as a result, now they're able to have intelligent conversations. One of the successes that we saw was a company who we've been historically selling into the K through 12 segment of the market. They were selling to multiple districts. There was a AI PC refresh, and of course, multiple partners were bidding. But we didn't have them bid on the PC. We had them bid on an ISV that was built on that to basically provide the ability for a user to actually leverage third-party AI assistance, but securely on their PC. So they could still gather information, but all the data resided there. So it didn't get propagated. So he went in there, and for every bid he's gone into, he's won or they won. And so this is the kind of things we're trying to help our partners do. It's not learning just about the what, but the why and the how.
Let's keep digging in on that point, Ed. So, what trends are you seeing in AI that are really around the adoption curve, right? Where are your partners getting stuck as customers come to them and say, I'm here, 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 here. I mean, throw an octopus up there with 8 arms. They have no idea where the point is. So
Yeah.
where are those trends? What are those trends? And where are people getting stuck?
I think a lot of them are, first of all, we go back to the earlier point. I think most of them don't know where they want to go. They know they need to use this, and they're buying more than what they can chew. And there's things that you can do with AI that enhance efficiencies or productivity. One of the earlier things that they did is obviously with Microsoft Office 365 and leveraging those things. And so part of it, so part of the challenge is the end customer not really, I want to buy AI. Well, AI is not a SKU. You're not going to buy this stuff. You got to understand what it's going to do for you as an end customer. So part of that, and then I think the other part of this is that, um, and this is where we got to help define those things. We got to define discrete use cases. We do things around computer vision that allows them to, for advanced enhanced security, and like in hospitality or event venues, or in hospitals, or in other areas that this type of solution would come to play. We're doing things around so we're trying to find those solutions that could be that have a discrete outcome that will actually produce something for a discrete end customer, because of the fact that a lot of these things end up going back to their point. When they don't know where they're going, then it stays in a POC environment. So we've learned some lessons regarding that. So we're trying to help our partners identify their customer base and find out things that will produce a discrete outcome now with the customer, and then they can build that out and start to do it much more departmentally first, and moving more to a larger environment. The other thing we're looking at, Rick, as well, is that the interesting thing is that I went earlier that I talked about the infrastructure, that you need the infrastructure to be able to deploy the application. CTOs know they need to be able to do this. I mean, you cannot run an AI. It's not a matter of if, or it's a matter of when you're going to do agentic AI. It's our Gen AI. It's going to happen. So your infrastructure has to be set up to be able to support that. However, they're running into a challenge with the rest of the C-suite within their company about how do I justify the ROI in advance of the deployment of the application. And what we're trying to do is basically help bridge that gap through creative financial opportunities where you can start to upgrade. We already know the sizes that you need for some of these deployments, but doing something like a capacity on demand, right, where an end customer can purchase the system that they need now and actually build for the future. And you look at Cisco, you look at and NetApp, you look at Dell, HPE, IBM, all of them know they need an infrastructure to support the application. And we're trying to help them bridge that gap. Our partners are having conversations with the end customer, and we're trying to, as we see these barriers, we're doing what we can, leveraging our core value to market to reduce those barriers and start to establish those that bridge the chasm, right? Because you're right. And I think there's going to, over time, as more use cases get developed, I mean, you're starting to see things like with Salesforce, these agentic, predefined agentic AI, and I think you're going to start seeing from the cloud organization, Microsoft Microsoft AWS and others, where they're going to have things where they can just be leveraging things off the shelf, if you will, to deploy. And as it becomes propagated, I think this will become more the lack of clarity of what an end customer wants. It's clear. So I think those are the kind of things that we're trying to identify and then try to mitigate with things that we have in our portfolio.
So I want to hit this point home, right? You've talked about it multiple times, but TD Synnex does a really good job of talking about meeting their partners and customers where they are. But what does this practically look like, especially as it pertains to artificial intelligence?
Well, it goes back to the discrete use cases, like I mentioned in that one item that we talked about. This one, it was an ISV called Iterate, where there is a discrete use case of being able to leverage an AI assistant like a Chat GPT or whatever on a laptop. It's AIP, but it's secure, so that they can be able to leverage the data but all the information they find and create resides there. So there's our use case in that regard. Computer vision, companies like ProHawk and Invadio that we've got alignment with. We are working with the OEM customers. So you got the likes of NVIDIA, HPE, and Dell. They're the ones also, they're also doing their own market research and intelligence of what's really being deployed, and then we're replicating it to scale that out with our customers. So practically, what we're trying to do is find those use cases that actually have a defined outcome, that are defining a result to solve problems now that are out there in the market, the larger agentic AI deployments, the larger Gen AI department, those are things that are going to happen over time that we're actually trying to be prepared for. This is where I was talking about the infrastructure piece. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So we're addressing both the immediate needs based on discrete use cases, as well as the future needs based on making sure that the infrastructures are built in a way that will support that. Because again, we're seeing that if you look at any trend in the market, you see this hyper growth of technology, even networking, Rick. Networking, networking is it's amazing. Just AI enabled this because you need this, right? And it's relevant. It's relevant to security. I think the amount of revenue last year was 11 billion. It goes to 61 billion by 2030, 143 billion by 2033. And the growth of just based networking is around 9%. Of AI enabled network is about 40% as a CAGR over the next 5 years. So a lot of your customers, a lot of people that probably see your podcast sell network, and they probably sell security. This is an area of focus that I believe it's untapped, and I think gives you a leg up on a rudimentary technology, because without that you can't do all this other stuff. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to get at. So we're approaching for it's. Going back to some earlier philosophical things, Rick. I have this my new philosophy that I gotten older is that I'm trying to do as many and rather than or. I'm trying to eliminate this or that. I want to live my life with the and, So I want to do the applications with the ISVs for the discrete outcome, but I want to prepare our customers and our partners and the customers for the future, understanding the infrastructure matters in that regard.
So I love that you've moved us to this and conversation, because whenever I get a chance to talk to somebody who has an interesting piece of their own personal puzzle that most people wouldn't know, because I do as well, I found that you have a YouTube channel and that you're a pretty awesome singer-songwriter. So tell us a little bit about that. What's your inspiration? Like walk me through that a little bit. Like, this is the feel-good part of this. So I'm curious to learn more.
I've been a musician all my life. I was in my 20s. I was a professional musician, and interesting. So I moved to Nashville in my early 30s to be a songwriter. And Rick, I met a friend of mine who was a tech support manager for an IT company. And I went and met him for lunch, and then I met the president of a small company. They did IO cards for Unix systems. I met the guy. The guy calls me up and say, "Hey, do you need a job?" And I just moved to Nashville, so yeah. I mean, I had just gotten my degree in marketing, or whatever, and so I started as a part-time inside sales guy, and then I got full-time. And then he said to me, "You never know, it might be a good career move." And here I am, 30 years later. But I never stopped the passion, so I continued to play and write music. And up maybe about 10 years ago, I had stopped for a number of years and rededicated myself to going out performing and recording music. And so I have this it's kind of and I find, are you a musician, Rick? You play music?
I just started to learn how to play the guitar, but I had to put it to bed because I decided to get my pilot's license instead. And so two passions were a little like,
That's awesome. And I admire for people, because that's a difficult one, but I love that passion. What I found is that there's a lot of, because we don't have it here because I'm not in my home office, but in my background, I have my guitars. And I find there are a lot of musicians in IT, right? So it just reinforced, and it's by creativity. It's the balance of both, the left and right brain. So part of my gig that I have here, in my day gig in IT, is leveraging a lot of that creativity and passion that also translates when I play music. Whether I'm playing in front of a concert or speaking in front of a stage, it's about being able to convey a message and communicate and connect. And I think that's what it all is all about, Rick. It's about connecting. The question you talked about early on, whether it's awesome or not. But I think the awesome thing is be able to meet people like you, is to be able to, I'm telling you, and when I've had this conversation with partners on AI, and I show them this grid, their eye is like, oh, I can play now. Yeah, you were already in the game. You're in the game, man. You just need to know how to play it. You just play it with your strengths, And it's like when I have musicians you have some guitar players that they're trying to be a different style, and so just play to your strength, And that's one thing I finally realized, even in the music, there was a certain style of music. I love jazz, I am never going to be a jazz musician, but I love it. I'm not going to be a classical musician, but I love that. But I'm just focused on where I am at. And I think if you can focus on your life, where you're at and your passion, like you've dealt with the pilot, I'm intrigued by that. Um, that's a passion, and it brings balance to life, right? And I think that. So thank you for asking about that question. Thank you for uh, that gracious comment. So thank you very much. It's awesome.
Of course. So, Ed, the next few questions, these are the quick hit questions. So, 30
Okay,
seconds or less. It's like an
we got
elevator
it.
pitch, right? And so,
We got it.
this is the fun ones because these get out there, the world sees these. People will give you 30 seconds or less of their time to listen to it, to go listen to the rest. So,
You bet.
first one, what's the biggest myth about implementing artificial intelligence in a business?
The biggest myth is that it's going to be a quick hit. This is something that's got to be very prescriptive. That you got to it requires a lot of analysis of your overall organization, and from the top down, operationally, legally, contractually. It's a paradigm shift of the business that you have to take in the full organization as you start to deploy this.
All right. What's the number one way artificial intelligence is already improving cybersecurity today?
Well, as I mentioned to you earlier, there's a lot of these vendors already were implementing ML, machine learning, early on. I think they just continue to enhance that. I think when the interesting thing is they're now looking about enhancing the whole zero trust environment, from AI enabled security at the low end to securing AI at the top end. And you hear about this platformization that's taking place. And I think some of the vendors are actually been quite adept at being able to deliver that.
I'm going to add an extra portion of this. What is the number one way that artificial intelligence is improving business efficiency today?
Well, AI. When you think about it, it's all about efficiency and productivity. So in my world, I started to leverage it just on using a AI assistant to do market research, market intelligence, being able to help me position and create documents and verbiage, all as my own words, to be able to provide, make sure it's salient and that it's meaningful and it's credible and it's reliable as we start to bring as we bring this content to market. So productivity, speed to market. These are tools now, and that's one thing I think we have to be aware, Rick, is that these things are tools like anything else. And it's how you use that tool it's gonna be effective.
Give me one quick tip to any partner or even customer that's unsure of how they're going to start their AI journey.
I think the one quick tip is to continue to read and learn enough and find those areas that you feel good. What would be the easiest thing to try to gain efficiency first? Start there. Start with the foundation, and then you build up. If you're trying to learn guitar, you had to learn basic chords. You can't learn to play riffs. So it's all about learning your basic chords and the major chords. And once you get that, and usually I think at an AI deployment, you just got to learn your basic chords.
Why is artificial intelligence and cyber the tech intersection that everyone should be watching right now?
Well, you need both. And you cannot deploy AI without security. Period. And so they're hand in glove. So that's why when you see one, you're going to see the other, and you're seeing the implementation of AI within the security portfolio. You can continue to see as adaptive because the bad actors are using AI, and these guys are staying one step ahead constantly.
What's the number one trend in artificial intelligent adoption that just no one's talking about, but they need to be?
The efficacy of AI. You gotta understand how ethics of this, because you're starting to incorporate things that are now, you're replicating personhood, and you got to eliminate bias and these other things. And I think that's part of it that we got to be very mindful as we start to proliferate AI.
Ed, this was wonderful. You made it personal, just like your wallpaper says. So thank you so much for being on the Cyber Pro podcast.
It's been a blessing, Rick. Thank you so much. Look, great meeting you. This was fun. Thank you.